he was aware. He had tried to intercept her. Everyone had tried to tell her, you have to go to the wedding. You will regret this. You will never be able to let go of this if you do not go. So you have to go. But they couldn't convince her to stay. The last time I saw my mom and how she tried to ruin the best day of my life at the time. More yarn, always. Mother's Day is right around the corner. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of really mixed feelings about Mother's Day. First, I am a mother. I have 2 children, 2 boys I adore, 14 and 7. But I also have a mother, and like I'm sure many of you, the relationship is not just complicated, but it's non-existent. And so I would like to talk today about my wedding day. Stick around and I'll tell you the story. All right, so let's just start by saying I am Canadian. I was living in San Francisco with my soon-to-be husband and flew my mother out from Canada to be with us in San Francisco for a few days before going to Hawaii, where we were getting married. We had a whole destination wedding planned. 15, I guess, of our friends and family were showing up, and I was just really excited. We had a difficult couple days before leaving San Francisco, where my mother would have meltdowns and tantrums and would just try to ruin basically every important moment for me. For instance, on the day that I went to go and get my wedding gown and to wear it for the first time in front of her for the final fitting, I had to ask her if I looked pretty in it. I needed to prompt her to have a kind thing to say to her daughter before getting married. So my mother already has been very, she's just a very jealous, envious, not very healed human who at the time would take all of that out on me. And I was so nice and so sweet and most certainly did not have a backbone back then. So I just tried to do everything that I could to please her. So I'm a young bride, soon to be getting married. One of the other events that we had to do before going to Hawaii was go and get our wedding bands. And we had a wonderful day planned. We were going to go to Napa and just spend the day going into the vineyards and going to pick up our rings. My mother, once again, threw a fit that morning and said that she did not want to go. She was going to stay home instead at our apartment. So we went by ourselves, and remember, people who are narcissistic, they just really love to ruin any important or special occasion. So there were a lot of opportunities for her to ruin something for me in a very short amount of time, and she made sure to make the most of it. So don't worry, the best is yet to come. So after getting our wedding bands and trying to spend the best day that we could, despite my mother not joining us and making it very clear that she was not pleased with just everything. When we get back to our apartment, my mother has spent the day instead decorating the entire thing for a bridal shower that I now get to have either alone with my fiance or wait for the next day when she and I will have it together. I remember breaking down in my fiance's arms and just being so confused why this woman who seemingly wanted me to be happy and had brought all these mementos from my childhood, and she'd wrapped up all of these little gifts, and she decorated it really well. Like, she put a lot of effort into it. And I couldn't make sense why a person who did that could also be so mean in so many other ways. The next day, she threw me a bridal party for 2, and I overlooked the fact that she had hurt me significantly the day before. The day before that. So now we're in Hawaii, and people are arriving, and my mother is not the most social of people, and she's not able to do small talk very well, and it was already uncomfortable. So we went to a restaurant, and the entire time with my ex's mother, my mom didn't say a word, nothing. She was so rude. She couldn't enter into conversations. I remember just thinking how embarrassed I felt because she couldn't even try for me. She couldn't even give any effort to act normal. The night before I got married, we had my rehearsal dinner, and we got lost on our way to the rehearsal dinner because we had, at the time, whatever Google Maps had. It was not the most sophisticated, and we got lost in a city that we did not know. We were in Waikiki or Honolulu, and we got lost. So we were about 30 minutes to my rehearsal, and everything went well. Again, everyone was there. My mother said that night that she felt like she was losing a daughter. And I said, no, Mom, you're gaining a son. Like, this is wonderful. Our family is expanding. Look at this. Look how great it is. But of course, she was very much in her own head and thinking about herself and what she was missing out on, or what she didn't have, or whatever was going on with her. My wedding included my godfather, and my godfather was my dad's brother, or is my dad's brother. So my godfather was there. This would have been my mother's ex-brother-in-law, and they decided to be completely indiscreet together. And that was also mortifying and humiliating, and just really didn't make me feel well. It didn't make me feel like I was at all a priority during this trip where people were supposed to be I don't know, caring about how I felt at least a little bit. It was embarrassing. My ex-husband's family was able to see that there was just so much chaos and dysfunction in mine, and it was not good. So the day of my wedding, I went to the salon, and I was there with my ex's cousin's wife. And she was lovely, and it was just the two of us, and we were at the salon, and my mother was supposed to be there at a certain time, let's say 3:00, and she's not there. So they put my veil on, I get done up as a bride, and I go to my hotel room. My mother shows up a half an hour later, and I was a little sad because she was not there when I got the veil put on. And so I said, where were you? And instead of apologizing, she realizes that she has now messed up and decides to instantly turn it on me. And she says, so I was late. You were late last night at my own rehearsal dinner because we got lost. What it is she forgot where she was supposed to be and when she was supposed to be there. And instead of just taking responsibility for it, she had to then double down and make me responsible. At this point, I'm about to get married, and I cannot handle any more stress. So I look at her as she's about to walk out the door of the hotel room already. I said, I don't need this right now. And I said, you have to go. So she leaves the room. I remember crying. The photographer shows up. We have to wait a little bit longer so that my tears can dry and my cheeks can no longer be red. And my father was there. He brings me down the elevator to the lobby where we're getting married. And as he's linked arm in arm, he says, with dignity and grace, Caroline. And I said, yes, with dignity and grace. So my father is in the military too, and I remember him in his uniform, and it was just, I felt a lot in that moment. As I walked down the aisle towards my soon-to-be husband, I noticed that the front row seat where my mother should be is empty. I noticed that the front row seat where my mother should be is empty. I have not seen my mother since then. On my wedding video, you can see me looking up and trying to see in this courtyard if I can find her, if she's watching, if she's trying to see me. I could not believe, and even now, I cannot believe the cruelty of standing up your daughter on her wedding day, of leaving me at the altar, of realizing that she chose the most painful moment to prioritize her needs again over mine on what should have been the best day of my life. My ex-husband and I did not mention her. We didn't say her name. We stared at each other and we knew what had happened. We knew what was going on. So, we went on with the reception. We moved her seat, took her name tag off, and tried to have a good night. I remember when we had our first dance, which was in a like a restaurant, a beautiful Hawaiian restaurant, and they had live music, and they played our first song. And when we were dancing, there was someone who said that they had seen us getting married earlier. They said that they had been so moved because of the emotion they could feel. And I wish I could say that all of that emotion was because I was so happy about what was happening, but it was also because I was so torn by what was happening with my mother while I was supposed to be getting married. I did not see her after that. She went back to San Francisco. She gathered her things and she went back to Canada. A few months later, I was contacted online by someone who was a flying monkey, someone who befriended my mother or pretended like she was my friend. And she got into my messages and then also befriended my best friend at the time and just started telling all sorts of nonsense just to be able to hurt me. And so I knew that my mother had gone back home, and instead of admitting that she had just made a mistake, and she instead had to make me the bad guy. And I don't know if you've ever been made the bad guy by a parent, but it is just so destabilizing and so hurtful. I would have done anything for my mother for so long. And it really took her having to walk out of my life on my wedding day for me to have boundaries, because even since then I've tried to have a relationship with her. I've actually tried to, even after my children were born. I would send photos and updates, and I asked for a recipe for spaghetti sauce because it was my favorite, and she wouldn't reach out, or she would send a message to say happy birthday on my birthday and then not address the pain that she caused. So eventually I had to say, no, unless we're going to talk about these things, you sending me yearly birthday wishes just brings up this painful reminder that you are not in my life and you don't want to be or cannot. So feels good to get that off my chest. Mother's Day is a complicated holiday for so many reasons. And if you don't have a relationship with your mother, I know how painful it is, especially if you wish that you could. And I really do wish I have tried everything, to my detriment, honestly. It means it took a long time still, even after that, for me to really understand that she was unhealthy for me. But when you're raised in it, it's all you know, right? And unfortunately, it conditioned me to many other relationships where their needs were far more important than mine. So we'll talk about that another time. Thank you for listening to this. It just, having a terrible relationship with my mother really just inspires me to want to have a better relationship with my children. It motivates me to want to break any cycles of generational abuse and to just do better, to be the mom that I needed and to be the protection that I needed as a little kid. So if you're a mom, happy Mother's Day. If you have a mom, happy Mother's Day. If you really hate this day, then I totally get it. Thanks for watching. Comment and subscribe, okay?